Broadcasting from the Cass Corridor in Detroit, this is the Metro, a slice of news, culture, and conversation. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the program, how often do you talk to strangers? There are lots of reasons to say hello. We'll talk to some strangers about it.
We'll also look through the lens of Bill Rawhauser's camera. The late photography icon captured Detroit life across 7 decades.
Plus, a lot of Canadians are frustrated with President Trump. He announced tariffs on autos yesterday. They're also angry he's threatening to annex the country.
We'll hear what Canadian leaders, economists, and business owners in Windsor have to say.
But first, last week, the Michigan Public Service Commission signed off on another electricity rate hike, this time for Consumers Energy. The utility provider will collect an additional $154 million in revenue, and that's roughly half of what the company originally requested. Now, the average customer's monthly bill will go up $2.78 at the beginning of April. This comes after state regulators already approved rate hikes for both DTE Energy and Consumers Energy in the past year.
That's right, Robin. And DTE has some of the highest energy costs in the Great Lakes region. That's according to a report by the Center for Biological Diversity. So why are our energy companies asking for more so often? Katherine Peretick is a member of the state's Public Service Commission. Producer Carrie Jr. II spoke with her to better understand how the commission decides to sign off on price hikes.
I want to start with a clip from a guest we had on the show previously. His name is Kari Frazier. He works with Solidarity. That's a nonprofit that's working to make clean energy accessible and affordable to residents.
So on the ground, people are very frustrated because of the cost. And not just the cost. We really have to look at the product that's being delivered. We're paying for the highest prices in energy across the nation, close, and also the reliability of this service. Anytime it's a storm, the wind last week, people are wondering, will I even have energy to hold on to? And then also just the disrespect of this corporation when your energy does go out. I mean, the small stipend that you are given is something that Solidarity fought for, but it's nothing like if you're in a business that many people, such as myself, work from home right now, or many people actually work from home with their job, and you'll be out for 2 days. So it's the cost that we're paying, always paying more, and the fact that it's not that reliable, it just doesn't work out.
So he said a few different things in that clip, but I want you to address how residents are dealing with higher prices and don't feel at the same time that service is up to par. Many Detroit households are considered energy burdened homes, meaning the average household pays more than 6% of their income on energy. And over the last year, the commission has approved multiple price increases for both DTE and consumer energy. So why increase rates when we know residents are struggling to pay even the rates previous?
I feel the frustration of that your caller, your commenter. Let me tell you that raising rates is by far the hardest part of my job. Detroit was actually one of the first cities to be fully electrified, which means a lot of the poles and wires and electrical infrastructure that's used in the city of Detroit is quite old. It's some of the oldest in the country, and it is in desperate need of updating to perform in the way that it needs to be able to deliver reliable electric services to Detroit's residents. And unfortunately, upgrading that distribution infrastructure costs a lot of money. So it's a really, really difficult calculation and difficult decision for us anytime we need to raise electric rates. But our reliability really does also need to be improved.
Why then are there multiple price increases? Is one not enough? Is this an incremental approach?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the laws in Michigan allow a utility to file for a request for a rate increase every year. And we need to issue that decision within 10 months. So there's the 2-month gap in between when the last decision was issued and when a new application can be submitted by the utility. And the way that it works in Michigan, which is not true in other states, is that the utility will basically submit almost every year and ask for those increases on a yearly basis. But one of the advantages is that each one of those increases is a lot smaller than if they were to ask for increases at a less frequent rate, which is sometimes what you see in other states. And then second of all, it keeps the increases relatively in line, at least over the last few years, relatively in line with the pace of inflation. One of the other advantages is that it allows for a more regular review of the utilities plans. So we can check in on them and make sure that they actually are spending the money where they say that they're spending it. If we went for multiple years in between these rate cases, there's a lot less oversight into what the utility is doing. So I think there's both positives and negatives to that. What it really comes down to, though, is making sure that we at the commission are evaluating each one of the things that the utility is asking for with a lot of scrutiny to make sure that that is actually a needed investment and that money that we approve is actually going to be spent on things that are beneficial to customers.
According to a recent report by the Center for Biological Diversity, DTE made $1.1 billion in net income from January to September 2024. That's 41% more than they made in 2023. If they're making that much money and they're making more money than they did before, shouldn't that money make up for the amount that they're asking their consumers to pay to make the investments needed to improve the infrastructure?
I totally agree with you that there is that the utilities put too much emphasis on paying their shareholders. I think that is a true statement. I think that the utilities should put more of an emphasis on ensuring that customers get better electric service and get more reliable electric service. And a big part of what we have been doing recently is trying to ring fence some of the investments that we approve to make sure that they are spent on reliability improvements and not just passed on to their shareholders.
Knowing that that's the case and that the company's making so much more money, making more money than they did years prior, why then approve another rate hike?
The way that the commission works is that we approve rates, not budgets. And what that means is that we can't actually make management decisions for the company. So ultimately, when we issue that final order, we're approving a final rate that the utility is able to collect. They can collect that rate and spend it on whatever they want. We don't have any authority after that. So the way that we have to hold them accountable is exactly as you're describing. It's in that next rate case when they come back to us and say, we need more money because we need to spend it on, I don't know, replacing these poles and wires over here. And then we look at that and say, okay, we gave you money last time to replace that pole and wire over there. Why didn't you spend it on it? We're not going to give that to you this time.
Can you, in as plain language as possible, kind of explain the process by which you determine the rate increases?
So a utility submits their case, the request for a rate increase, which includes why the utility thinks that this rate increase is needed, reasonable, and prudent. Interveners, so other parties, will participate in the process as well and offer their opinions as to whether the items that they say are needed, reasonable, and prudent, in fact, are. There's a large record that is built up by all of these different parties. And then it's our job as commissioners to then evaluate that record and then make that decision as to whether to approve or modify or reject the utility's original request for a rate change. And this isn't just a simple yes or no vote. We don't just say, oh, yes, utility, you get everything that you asked for, or no, you get none of what you asked for. And it can be many, many, many different decisions in one rate case that all add up to whatever that final number is, sometimes over 300 different individual decisions.
And how long does this process take?
So if we don't make a decision, if the commission doesn't issue a final order within 10 months of when the utility originally submitted their request for a rate increase, the utility gets everything they asked for. And that's how it's written in Michigan law.
Understood. I see. So it sounds like a pretty low pressure job there. How can you be sure that a utility company like DTE, which has had outage issues for years, will change its behavior if every time it submits a request to get a rate increase, the commission grants it?
Yeah, and that's where the legal aspect of this process comes in, is that even though I might be angry and want to give the utility 0%, I can't just make that decision based on the fact that I don't like the reliability, or based on the fact that I'm angry at them for paying their shareholders too much. The law says that I need to evaluate each aspect of the rate case and make the decision that's based on the record evidence that's in front of me. And that means I need to look at each one of those requests and approve or deny or change based on the evidence that's on the record there. These are not like subjective emotional decisions like that. It's a highly technical, highly legal process.
So the information submitted during the review process doesn't contain enough detail on how much money the companies are spending elsewhere. It just contains information on how much it needs and what that money is for.
That yes, unless someone asks them that question. So one of the values of all of the varied intervener parties that we get to participate in these processes is that there's a part of that rate case process where they get to ask discovery for the of the utility, and then the utility has to reply. They need to provide that information. So it has to come from those intervening parties. Our staff can ask too, but we can't talk to that staff. Like we act as these quasi-judicial judges where we're isolated from the process, and we can't talk about the rate case at all to the utility or to interveners or even to our staff. If an intervener wants to look at what the utility spent their money on in a previous year, they can ask that as part of the discovery process.
And then once you have the spending information, you can determine a little more clearly whether a rate increase is needed for the investments.
Exactly. You got it.
So when was the last time the commission denied a utility rate hike?
In my time on the commission, we have never approved 100% of a utility rate hike.
But you've never denied outright a complete hike?
No, we've never approved 100%, and we've never approved 0%. The lowest that we have gone during my time on the commission was about 8%.
What would it take then for it to be like, for the commission to say, you know what, this is not a hike we can afford? What would it take?
It's all based on the evidence that's on the record. So there was one rate case where it was around 8% of what the utility asked for. We didn't believe that the utility was forecasting residential electricity usage properly, and so it really varies. I don't think that it depends on that evidence that is on the record and whether what the utility is asking for is believable.
That was producer Carrie Jr. II speaking with Michigan regulator Katherine Peretick. In February, the commission approved a program that will impose a $10 million incentive or penalty if DTE or Consumers Energy do not meet service benchmarks. Goals include reducing the length of power outages and fixing poorly performing circuits. According to Commissioner Peretick, the money collected from penalties will be paid out to customers. The program starts next year.
From the WDET newsroom, experts caution that Michigan homeowners should avoid planting a certain tree species this spring, one that looks beautiful but smells bad and is already banned in several states. The U.S. Agriculture Department brought ornamental trees known as Bradford pears or calorie pears from Asia to America a long time ago. But the trees soon grew out of control, their delicate white flowers blooming much earlier than other trees, creating a canopy thick enough it chokes off sunlight to nutrients from other nearby plants. The trees also smell like rotten fish or urine or stinky feet if you know if you're walking by one, and has brittle branches that can easily break during a windstorm. So Michigan officials now consider the Bradford pear an invasive species.
Tia, I don't know why I thought that was a fun little news bit.
You did say, oh, that's going to be fun. And I just thought to myself, there's nothing fun about rotten fish smells.
Rotting fish, urine, or stinky feet. And we're talking about a tree. Okay.
Invasive at that. Man.
Coming up at 11, when's the last time you struck up a conversation with a stranger? We're going to talk about good old-fashioned face-to-face interactions with a researcher who says that talking with strangers will actually make you happier. You can give us a call and tell us your thoughts on this, 313-577-1019. And up next, a new exhibit honors the life and legacy of a Detroit photography icon and mentor, Bill Rawhauser. We'll learn more. We'll be right back on the Metro. Stay with us.